Welcome to another episode of G.E.N Talks, hosted by me, Melissa.
And me, Desiree.
Where the goal is to empower the youth of Glendale and connect youth to community resources, individuals, and organizations through interviews and discussions.
And today we are joined by two very special guests, Julien and Kiersten Saunders. Julien and Kiersten are the Atlanta-based co-creators of the lifestyle blog Rich and Regular. Together, they paid off $200K in debt in 5 years and were able to walk from their corporate jobs before turning 40.
Don't forget to follow us on our socials and Instagram and Facebook. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Glendale Library Arts and Culture, where we post full episodes every Friday at 4:30 p.m. Thank you, Julia and Kiersten, for taking the time out of your day to talk with us. We have a lot to discuss.
Yeah, we're so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy to have you. And before we get into talking about Rich and Regular, I want to start off with the story of you both. How did you two meet?
So we met at work. It's the most boring but common kind of story. This was before dating apps were really big. Now most people meet online or, out. And we just met because we were joining the same team at the same day. And we started dating pretty quickly. We were friends first, but then we realized there could be something to this. And we started dating and we went on a vacation together. And when we came back from the vacation, I wanted to just keep partying. I'm one of those people that does not like for fun times to end. And Julien wanted to do the responsible thing, which is kind of slow down and pay off the credit cards, adjust our spending to accommodate the vacation we just took. And what it led to was a big money argument. And it was actually our first time talking about money. So our first conversation about money was also our first argument about money. And we broke up. But long story short, we figured it out and eventually got married, had a kid, did all that stuff. And now we have a platform where we talk about money and we encourage people to have better conversations about money so they don't end up like we almost did.
Yeah.
Julien, you have a degree in culinary arts, business and hospitality administration and marketing. What have each of those avenues taught you?
That's a great question. I will start with the first one and kind of tie it. I'm really fortunate because every ounce of my academic experience I get to use pretty much through our platform today. And so culinary arts taught me how to cook, right? It made it really, really helpful. But I think more importantly, it taught me how to not just cook in restaurants and for fancy people who like to spend lots of money in restaurants, but it also taught me how to cook better at home. Mm-hmm. And as a result, how to help people learn how to cook better at home, figure out what they're doing wrong. And what we love about that is it really helps people to save money, because I think one of the reasons why people don't cook as much as they do at home is because they don't like what they made, right? If you actually enjoyed what you were making, it wouldn't feel like such a punishment. And I think people would then be able to harness the benefit financially of cooking at home. My degree in hospitality, I think really helped me as well, because, the hospitality industry is really all about people. Obviously, there's hotels and restaurants and country clubs and all that stuff. But I think the benefit of meeting so many different people from all walks of life is that you really get to appreciate diversity, everyone's struggles, and the different lens that everyone sees the world through. And so that's been really helpful for me. The last one I think is probably most important, which I think is marketing. And I think as much as we are passionate about personal finance, one of the things that we kind of cringe when we hear, and as much as we love financial education, we don't subscribe to the belief that people are rational, right? This idea that if we know better, we will do better is actually a myth. We aren't rational people, and marketers know this, right? You know that this person that's driving this new car isn't really recommending that you drive your car on the beach. It's not cut out for that, or it's not cut out for this off-road exercises, right? Most likely you're going to buy it and you're driving it in an urban environment. And these are all of the things that marketers know that play into our emotions. And we found that that's actually really important as well when it comes to helping people manage their money. And so using all of those skills around marketing and storytelling and being able to what we call aim for the heart, to try to motivate people and to tap into the innermost motivations, and then use that to influence people to look at and think about money differently.
And Kiersten, you mentioned in your story how you spent decades of your life just waiting for perfect timing and bulletproof certainty. What was a pivotal moment in your life that made you decide to not wait anymore?
Ooh, that is an excellent question. I think there have been several pivotal moments. Like I've kind of shed my perfectionism habits, like one milestone at a time. I'd love to think it was a switch that I could just turn off and turn on, but I recognize I'm not built like that. I'm a Virgo and I have a lot of programming. I'm also, almost 40 years old. So I have a lot of programming where my whole life I've been told like, this is the bar, this is how it's supposed to be. And so as I grow, I encounter new milestones, but I think the latest has been becoming a mother. When you have a child, there's just so much you don't know about the world. There's so much that you hadn't considered about your own upbringing that you're kind of processing as you raise your own child. And I think it was a catalyst for me to start to think about what else I was waiting on. Like I had checked several boxes from my career to getting a house, and now I'm a mom. So it's like, all right, I've checked off all the things that I'm supposed to do as a woman in this world, but I still didn't feel fulfilled. And that's when I realized that like I was still kind of going by an external scorecard instead of one that I created myself. And so the way that I have approached motherhood was really just thinking, and I do this weekly, if not daily, really thinking about like what lights me up instead of like following this playbook that we've been given, that we've been conditioned and socialized to do. What are the things that I enjoy? I enjoy hanging out with my girlfriends. I enjoy going on date nights. I enjoy going to concerts, and those things don't have to automatically go away because you're now a mother.
Yeah.
You can incorporate them into this process of your life so it doesn't feel like such a burden.
So Julien, you mentioned in your story bio a quote, the key to thinking outside of the box is to recognize the box never existed. What does this mean to you and how has it shaped you in any way?
Yeah, so gosh, it actually reminded me of the very first time that I heard that. This was early in my career. And I think I'd gone to like a professional conference, and I gave all the credit to the person who'd actually said it, only to find out later that they were just quoting someone that they'd heard it from, which is pretty common these days.
It's so common.
Yeah. Like, I thought he was absolutely brilliant until I Googled it. But what it did was it just gave me the confidence to just recognize that we don't have to wait for some catastrophic event to gain this perspective that so many people feel is a life-changing moment, right? And so unfortunately, a lot of us wait until something bad happens. Maybe it's a loss, a job loss, a death in the family, a sickness, or just some disruptive life event. And it gave me license to realize that you don't have to wait for something bad to happen to feel comfortable taking this risk, whether it be a creative risk, whether it's being honest about something that you're actually not passionate about, or realizing that, hey, I've been going down this long path of saying this is who I am and what I wanted to be, but I got halfway through college before I then realized that actually I was just saying that because that's what my mom and my dad or my aunts or my uncles or my mentors really wanted to hear, and I wanted to maintain this relationship with them. And so it just sort of gave me license to say it's okay to change your career paths, right? And so to your point, like there was one point in my life where I wanted to be a chef, and you could not convince me otherwise. But then I got into it, and then I gave myself license to redefine myself. And so at different stages of my life, and even today, my ability to pivot or shift direction is a lot easier for me because it's a muscle or a skill that I've been practicing all throughout my life. And a lot of that is because of that quote on that day from that person who I will not give credit for because they didn't actually say it. But it was enough to remind me that, hey, I can be whatever I want to be, and I can decide to be something different tomorrow. And if the day after that I decide to combine it all, then that's okay too.
And you guys mentioned this already previously, but money can be a hard topic to discuss between anyone. And so how did you both approach that conversation of wanting to pursue the financial independence movement?
Yeah, Julien actually brought financial independence to me. So after our original blow up, we definitely agreed that we should pay down our debt and like be more fiscally responsible, more financially responsible. And for us, that just looked like paying down debt. And for Julien, it looked like buying some real estate to begin to create passive income. And so after he bought real estate, he got immersed into the real estate community, which is a very active community online, and started learning more about how to acquire more properties and build a real estate, kind of portfolio. But in that advice, hidden in that advice was also this introduction to financial independence, which is kind of a side effect of making investments. And at the time, financial independence was about being really frugal, living below your means, investing the difference at a really high rate. So going against conventional advice and investing more than 10%, investing more like 40 or 50% of your income, and then retiring early. If you could invest more than standard rules of thumb tell you, then you can retire earlier than 60 or 65 or 70. And so he brought it to me. And at first I was like, absolutely not. Like, I do not want to be frugal Francis. I do not want to, use one ply toilet paper and eat beans and rice forever. But after I started immersing myself in the community and finding role models and other examples of people who were living the life, and I could see what kind of trade-offs they were making, I was far more open-minded to the idea. And to Julien's point, we gave ourselves license to take what applied to us and leave the rest. I think a lot of us approach advice as if you have to take all of it.
Right.
And like some of that is perpetuated by the internet, where it's like, oh my God, if you like 99% of somebody, but they say one thing that you don't like, they're canceled, or like you can't support them anymore. With this, it was like, take what you need, like a buffet, like take what you want, leave the rest. And so once we started recognizing that that's the way that we should approach it, it became a far easier concept to embrace. And that's kind of been our MO with any other financial concept or like social movement or countercultural idea that we come across, is try to keep an open mind and recognize that like you don't have to, it's not biblical. Like you don't have to take it as gospel and apply every single thing to your life. People are telling their personal stories and giving you their best tips. And it's up to you to be discerning and kind of take what you need, adjust it. And if you think that can help more people, then create a platform or talk about your experiences openly so that more people can find your way of doing things to kind of counterbalance what they're finding elsewhere.
So you both started Rich and Regular in 2017. Can you talk a little bit more about it and how it came to be?
Sure. So the name was something that, it just kind of depends on the day in terms of the story that we're telling. But I will tell the name itself came from two things. One was watching Coming to America. There's a scene in Coming to America where Sexual Chocolate is playing on stage, and there's a guy in the back that's saying, that boy good. And he was like, good and terrible. And I just loved like the juxtaposition of these two terms. And as I was thinking about at the time, wanting to create a blog and just sort of capture our lifestyle and our message in something, I was like, I want to be rich, but I don't want to be rich and famous. I want to be rich and regular. Like, I don't want to be the person that people are, super excited over or any of that. I don't want to be that person, right? Everyone always uses the Kardashians. They're like the default example of the type of rich you don't want to be. And we weren't like anti-Kardashian, but we were like, I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
But
more Cardi B, less Kardashian.
I'm fine with neither of those options, to be honest.
She's regular-ish.
Okay, if you say so. But I didn't want that, right? And I didn't want that for us. But I think more importantly, what we really wanted to show people is that people oftentimes entangle the two, right? So they heard the word rich and then they automatically like attached the word famous as if you could only be rich if you were famous. And what we really wanted to show them was that actually there were much simpler, invisible, stealth ways of building wealth that don't involve any of the things that you see in the mass media, right? And so we always encourage people to Google the word rich. And what you find is Leonardo DiCaprio making it rain off of a boat. You find people standing in front of like Lamborghinis and luxury cars and big houses and all those things. And that's great for those people who can do it. But for the normal person, like you don't really want, and I found a lot of people don't even need that. And so what we really wanted to do was to just make the messages of financial literacy, the appeal, and I think use of the FIRE movement a little bit more applicable to our specific audience.
Right.
Because we were sharing some of the things that we'd found, podcasts, blogs, movies, and films, and we would share with people, again, naively thinking that all they needed to know was how to do these things, and they would absolutely be convinced that this is something that they could do. And the reality was that it just didn't click for them. They didn't find it interesting. They didn't resonate with the characters or the stories or the results, any of that stuff. And we didn't want them to miss out on it. And so we said, instead of relying on or asking some of the people who were creating content to cater some of their content or their story or their lives to the African American community, we figured that there's nobody better suited to do it than us, because we were living that lifestyle. We were living tiny. We were paying off all of our debt, and we were still like really, really enjoying ourselves. And so that's really where the idea came from. We found a name, we secured the URL, and since then we've grown from a blog to a podcast to a video series and now a book. And who knows what's coming after this. Hopefully we can stop here. But it's fun, and it's something that we enjoy doing. And I think it's also really important, just kind of given some of the broader societal issues that the African American community is faced with when it comes to economic empowerment. So we're glad that we can contribute to that cause a little bit and help steer people in the right direction.
And in the first stages of Rich and Regular, how did you both tackle the responsibilities?
Yeah, so I owned a lot of it at first. Kiersten was
a new mom,
right? And so she had a different baby to attend to. But it was mostly me, but we would talk about it all the time. I mean, we're a team. So we do, even though she may not have been the person doing all of the keystroking and the creative, she was very much aware of like what was happening and contributing to what was happening. And every now and then she would contribute her own voice, her own female perspective or perspective on being a new mom. But it really wasn't until 2018 or 19 where things really started to feel like, all right, well, maybe this little idea that we've started has the potential to be something larger than we thought. And that was when we started meeting with other people in the industry and watching the growth of the influencer space, and then saying, all right, well, this actually has the potential to, we have the potential to reach a significantly larger audience, but it would require us to focus our energy a little differently. And so about 2 years in is when we really started to, one, take our skill sets that we've developed at work and more heavily applying it to our, to Rich and Regular. And then finally in 2018 is when I walked away completely from my traditional job and started focusing on building Rich and Regular full time.
In the beginning stages, how did you both make sure people found out about Rich and Regular?
I think one of the big keys for us was that we were not anonymous. So back then it was very common for blogs and platforms to start under like almost like an avatar, like a character name.
Yeah.
Versus like your actual name, and you're sharing it on your actual Facebook and hoping that your actual friends and family discover you. And so we took a different approach, and we're very vocal about our blog, and our personal network, our personal and professional network kind of started the ball rolling on traffic and shares and likes and all the things that get people's attention. And then from there, through our personal network, we were discovered by a couple of journalists and freelance writers who then took our story and kind of amplified it through media channels. But we didn't focus on like the traditional advice is to focus on SEO so that you show up in Google results, which means you're kind of writing articles and telling stories based on algorithms or based on keyword research. And that wasn't the way that we wanted to build our platform. And so we kind of took the other approach, which is to leverage social capital to get the momentum going.
And you mentioned that you both also have a podcast, and I love how on your website underneath each episode, there's show notes. So what about podcasting drew both of you into it and, made you guys want to pursue that avenue?
That's a great question. I think we realized pretty quickly when we were writing our blog that writing has a limited reach. right? There's something in tone and facial expression, especially when you're telling stories and you're talking about a topic as taboo as money. There's a lot of intent that you want to be able to communicate. And so we immediately knew that writing had limitations, like other than like really fluffy, long language, which required an intensive, attention span by the reader. We should probably pivot to video and audio. And with podcasting, with video, it's fun. It just requires you to like bring a different set of skills. But with audio, there's a lot of room to add in sounds and feelings and intonation and jokes and humor. And
you can't read laughter.
Yeah,
that's a great point. You can't read laughter. That's a feeling. You can hear it. You can feel it. You can laugh along. It's just it just taps into a completely different set of emotions. Sorry.
No, that's exactly where I was going. It taps into a different set of emotions. And as our conversation started to get broader beyond just like, this is budgeting, here's how 401ks work. Like we started to talk about really meaningful topics at the intersection of life and money. So how do you deal with a sudden loss of income? How do you deal with a parent who doesn't have a retirement plan? How do you deal with caretaking responsibilities while you're trying to build your own financial foundation? Those topics, to me, do better if you can actually express empathy and sadness and joy and hope and optimism through your voice. And so podcasting is one platform that allows us to broach different topics in a really like human way. It sounds weird to say human way, but like that's what I mean, like through your humanity.
There are also a lot of resources that you both have provided that are on your website or on your podcast. How do you find these resources?
I think the secret ingredient to any like gargantuan financial goal and like achieving it is community. And so even for us, finding most of the resources, it comes through our community. And by that, I mean all of the followers, email subscribers, viewers on YouTube. Everyone's dealt with some of these issues, but there are some people on the East Coast that have access to a product or a tool or a company or resource that people on the West Coast may not have access to, or maybe have never even heard of. And so we rely heavily on those communities, and not just our community. Like we're not the only ones in the space, and we're not shy to make recommendations to other people who are better suited to answer certain questions. And so I think a lot of it is really just a byproduct of being a part of a much broader community of people who are, I guess, considered part of the personal finance world. And so you've got your investing lane, you've got your budgeting lane, you've got, marriage and relationships, you've got dealing with parents and dealing with children, all of these things, insurance, all of these different worlds introduce an entirely different set of tools. And it just also shows just how expansive of a world personal finance is, right? It impacts every aspect of your life. And so a lot of those recommendations a lot of those resources come through personal recommendations from people. And in some cases, they come from tools that we've used and we want to share with other people.
And on your YouTube channel, you have a series called Money on the Table. And I watched the small business episode. It was, I believe, season 2, episode 4. Loved it. Loved how you guys produced it and everything. So how did this idea come to be? And how did you both find the perfect guest to sit down and talk to?
A lot of it, I think was just a natural byproduct of everything that you've already asked, right? And to kind of stitch together my background and Kiersten's background. Is like, oh, well, it just kind of makes sense that they would kind of mash it all together and figure out a new and refreshing way to tackle personal finance and money. And so, yeah, that's what we did. And it just so happened that, the pandemic struck and, a lot of people were home, and we were thinking like, all right, well, if we're going to do this, let's go big, right? Because we watched a lot of YouTube videos, and a lot of them just kind of seemed pretty redundant. It was one person, one camera, and they were talking straight to you. But we thought about our audience and what we felt like they deserved in terms of taste levels and quality. We thought about what we would want to watch if we were in their situation. And then we thought about what it actually takes to disrupt the space, meaning people are bombarded with shows and television and entertainment options and movies and streaming and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so our mission was to reach as many people as possible, to inspire better conversations about money.
Mm-hmm.
And we figured that there was no better way to do that than to show people what better and good, high quality conversations about money look like. And in order for us to break through, we knew we had to go big and to make it entertaining. And so when we think about the social impact that shows like Reading Rainbow had on our generation, or even shows like Jeopardy, which are probably one of the nerdiest and brainiest shows out there. But if every single day they didn't do an entertaining game show, but decided that they were just going to do trivia night, it wouldn't reach nearly as many people, right? And so we just realized, going back to that marketing background, to reach people don't wake up just wanting to learn more about money or investing, but they will wake up and wanting to see where this couple is going next, or who they're talking to next, or what they're going to be eating next, and that sort of thing. So it was really a bit of inception. And it was like, all right, well, you like food TV and you like travel TV. Why don't I just take food TV and travel TV and kind of sneak in some financial literacy in there? And so far, it's done a pretty good job of kind of reaching people and kind of making them embrace messaging that they typically wouldn't be interested in wanting to hear.
I think it also just kind of role models what financial conversations actually look like.
Right.
So again, one of the limitations of like articles is that the structure of an essay usually has like a beginning, middle, and an end. And so if you even write an article about how to have a money conversation, you assume that that conversation is going to be conclusive, right? Because the article ends and it's like, well, then I talked to my spouse about money.
I did the 3 things that the article headline said.
Check, check, check.
Yeah.
But the reality is a lot of financial conversations are not conclusive. They're just meant to be exploratory. They are, they're learning opportunities. They might move the ball down the field an inch or two, but it doesn't solve the problem. It's an ongoing, lifelong relationship, very similar to the relationship you have with your body, your mind. If you're spiritual, your God or whatever it is, like it's meant to be ongoing and it evolves over time. And so I think what video and what the show allows us to do is just kind of show like, you can have 4 people at a table and all of them have very different opinions about the same thing. And then the episode ends and it's like, well, I kind of agreed with this person. I kind of agreed with that person. And it's just like a springboard to have your own conversations and develop your own opinions.
What is something that you both have learned throughout your journey starting rich and regular?
I'm going to piggyback on the answer I just gave. I'm cheating. But it is something I say, most people, but by most people, I mean me. I was one of those people that thought every conversation at the bar had to be conclusive. It goes back to this perfectionism where I assumed like, all right, if we're talking about the budget, then we'll make a plan about the budget and that's it. Like set it and forget it, like a license, like a driver's license test. Like once I've proven that I can do it, I don't have to keep proving it. And what I've learned is that like, that's actually not the bar. Rich and regular is an ongoing conversation. There is no quote unquote ending to our story. Like it's not about hitting a financial independence number or quitting your job or buying a new house. Like those are milestones along the way. But once you accomplish those, once you hit a certain income or achieve a certain level of wealth, it doesn't mean that your relationship with your finances goes away. It just means that it changes. So being able to keep documenting that has been really fun.
The big thing that I've learned, I would say, is that courage is far more powerful than let's say your intellect or your ability or willingness to like become an expert. I think we're an example of that. I think a lot of the people that we know who've done really, really well in life and in finance really embody courage, right? They have the courage to think differently. They have the courage to break free from what's expected of them. And that has been the thing that has really led them to go on to achieve incredible things in their life. And I think that's one of the things that we've learned in having thousands of conversations about money with people is that they're approaching it the wrong way. They think that they need to read another book, they need to read 5 more books, they need to take another course, they need to get a certification. And they just get stuck in this endless cycle of always learning, and they always need to learn the new thing. And now the IRS has changed up the numbers, and next year they've got to learn something new. And they just never stop learning. Whereas the people that we found to end up with the best results in terms of their quality of life and in terms of their finances are the people who were willing to move forward in the absence of certainty. And that requires courage.
And what is one piece of advice that you could give any teen or young adult when it comes to money and finance?
Oh, I was going to say, don't listen to what people tell you, but that is not exactly nuanced enough. You have one?
I have several.
Okay, you go first.
I would start with get comfortable selling. I think one of the most underrated skills in building wealth and creating income is selling. And I think a lot of people convince themselves that they're not good at selling, just like they convince themselves that they're not good at math. Right. Selling doesn't come comfortably to me, but it's something that you can learn, right? And I think it's a really, really important skill and will take you very, very far in your career or even as an entrepreneur, but it's something that you certainly need to work on, and you can start doing that at a very young age. So I would say get comfortable selling and start selling something very, very quickly so that you build up the callus and get comfortable with rejection. And by the time you hit your 20s, you can roll through all those no's until you find that one yes. Yeah. And those are the things that can help take you to the next level.
I would say don't be afraid to look for financial advice in books. I think now it's so common to find financial advice and like hacks on social media and on the internet, but those aren't always vetted. The recommendations that they make aren't always secure or safe or even legitimate. And so don't be afraid to go back to the library or to the bookstore and get a book. You'd be surprised, and I'm saying this as people who have written a book, you'd be surprised how much of an author or an expert's best thinking is available to you either for free through the library or for like $20 if you want to actually own the book. And so don't underestimate kind of what's in those pages, and feel free to get game from there versus just, scrolling through TikTok or whatever
I was just waiting for the TikTok bashing. Okay, millennial. Okay.
But speaking about you guys being authors, how was that process for you guys like, becoming authors and creating like a body of work yourself?
Writing a book is one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I only did half of it, right? She did the other half. But we spent a lot of time talking to other authors that spoke about like how challenging but rewarding that process is. And we're just getting to the process of feeling the reward. Because it's one of those few things in life that you do that just require full focus. Most people are just talking, they're riffing. They're not sitting down trying to organize their thoughts, trying to make sure that this thought fits like a puzzle piece into the next 8 or 10 thoughts. Like very few people have that time, the desire, or the ability to do that. And so to be able to do all of that at a high level with a fantastic publisher like Penguin Random House and our imprint and our editor team at Portfolio was just fantastic. It's a very long process from beginning to end. It's now almost the middle of 2022. This process for us started in the middle of 2019, and the book isn't even on the shelves yet. And so after that, you then have to do a good deal of promoting and trying to sell and do all of the things to ensure that people can actually see the book or find the book. But at the end of the day, it's one of the best experiences of my life because I get to do what I love with someone I love for people that I love, and it's something that will last forever. And we're really proud of the work that we've done and the contribution that we think it'll have to our community.
So before we end, we have some rapid fire questions. The first question is, what are your guys' favorite color?
Blue.
Blue, really?
I had to steal your answer.
She's lying. I don't think that's true.
I love blue. I wear blue jeans like almost every
That
day.
doesn't
I mean,
count.
black would be the other option,
That
but
doesn't count. Okay.
clothing colors versus favorite colors are different.
Just saying, it's rapid fire.
When are you both the happiest?
On vacation.
Bedtime.
Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Start a business.
Start a business early and as often as you can. Sell something.
Mm-hmm.
If you could have 3 people dead or alive for dinner guests, who would they be?
Cardi B. Probably Prince. And who's my third? I need an athlete. Serena Williams, maybe?
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah, that sounds fun.
What are you
Yes.
talking about? I don't know.
I'm gonna say Anthony Bourdain,
Ooh.
the Notorious B.I.G., and
Yes.
Janelle Monáe.
What are you both most afraid of?
I think currently like public embarrassment, like a really public, like that's what I have nightmares currently. I'm sure that's not my deepest, darkest fear, but like, I don't know, like just like being social media's main character of the day is like my fear right now.
I'm gonna say boredom, but what I really mean by that is just like a lack of interest in things. I don't ever want to lose like my sense of curiosity in the world or my willingness to explore or try something new. I don't ever want to be boring. So I'm a deeply curious person. I think if I lose that, then just go ahead and plan my funeral.
What is a song that both of you have on repeat currently?
What do I have on repeat? Our son Bo kind of controls my playlist every time I'm in the car. Now I'm looking like, what am I playing right now? Do you have one?
I have several.
Go!
I've been listening a lot to Robert Glasper. He's got a song called Black Superhero featuring Killer Mike. And I think Chicago the Kid or something like that. But he's an incredible musician, multi-hyphenate, pianist, producer. I think he's based out of LA as well. So yeah, Robert Glasper.
I'm just gonna give Bo's answer. Bo's favorite artists are Drake and Chris Brown. So anything by Drake and Chris Brown is what I've been listening to.
What are your both favorite movies?
My favorite movie is probably Love Jones, which is like an old rom-com. But I don't know. I watched it. It's like a coming of age movie for me, and I watched it something like I know almost all of it by heart.
I feel like a stereotypical Black male millennial by saying this, but there's a movie called The Last Dragon. It's what's called a blaxploitation film, where they basically have a guy that is like a version of Bruce Lee, but they call him Bruce Leroy. Even as I'm saying, it sounds absolutely ridiculous.
The movie is ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous. It's funny. It's just like your classic 80s.
Yeah.
Black. It's like Kung Fu meets Harlem. I could watch it every day. I know every single word.
Anybody who watches it after this is going to be like, this is the dumbest movie. It's also awesome.
But I'm willing to bet that there's someone who's like watching it is like, he better say Last Dragon. That's how iconic the movie is. So.
It is. Coming to America is in that same boat.
Yeah, it's just as ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you guys want your legacy to be?
That's a great question. For me, I want it to be generous, that I was blessed with a lot, but I also gave a lot.
I want to have inspired several millionaires, and I think we're on the path to doing that. So yeah, to be a part of the story as people are interviewing millionaires in the future to say what inspired you. I want them to say cashing out. I want them to say rich and regular. Not everyone for sure.
Yeah.
But if just a couple of them say that we were a part of their transformational journey, I will consider this a life well lived.
What is a book that you both have been reading recently or are currently reading that you would recommend?
I actually brought it. It's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Tawwab. I actually met her at a conference a couple of weeks ago. It's a very comprehensive guide to boundaries in a way that I've never known them to be. Like I've always just kind of shortchanged boundaries, but having read the book, I realized that a lot of the tension in some of my relationships has been because of boundary violations, either me violating their boundaries unknowingly or them violating my boundaries and me allowing it. And so it's made me more self-aware just by thinking about boundaries this way.
I can't wait for you to finish that book.
So I can hold you accountable for all the boundary violations.
I can remind you where the middle of the bed is. Stacked, because I'm a money nerd. This is called, it's your super serious guide to money. It's by our friends Joe Saul-Sehy and Emily Guy Birkin. I love it because it's the only funny money book I know. It's right. If a stand-up routine met financial literacy and they threw it all into a book is what this is, right? Because again, it can be such a dreary and boring conversation. This book sort of adds like a heaping dose of humor, which I think just introduces financial literacy to people who otherwise would have just completely ignored it. So Stacked is my current read that I'm really enjoying.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julien and Kiersten. We learned a lot about you. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to sit down with us and talk. Can you let everyone at home know about any upcoming projects and where they could connect with you?
Yeah, so our book Cashing Out comes out June 14th. You can find it in libraries everywhere, or you can buy it from wherever books are sold. If you're interested in following our personal journey, you can find us at richandregular.com. We also are on social media under @richandregular everywhere except for TikTok. TikTok. Or you can listen to our podcast, the Rich and Regular Podcast, which drops every week.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure getting to know you guys.
Likewise, you guys are
everything
wonderful.
You guys are doing is amazing. Honestly, it's very inspiring. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
We've done 20 interviews in the last
couple weeks. Yeah.
This has been our favorite. So thank you so much.
Oh, that means so much. Oh, thank you.
You all are better than, I'm telling you right now, you're better than the top 10% of podcasters I mean it.
Yes.
So
amazing interview.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it means a lot to us. And I wish you guys nothing but the best, and honestly, truly so inspiring. And I love what you guys are creating, honestly, because, you know, as a young adult, I'm like, finance is sometimes something I struggle with. And like, just like hearing you guys talk about it, it's just very amazing. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. This is a big old love fest.
Yes. Just